So what are our focus areas? So, what you might have heard that single-use plastic is banned in most of the state, and its implementation was also we were chasing it. But after this pandemic, we will have to look this perspective in a totally different way. So our focus is on how to eliminate the single-use plastic. So this is our main agenda right now. And the EPR regime, MOEF, CC, and CPCB is working on it. The Mahua is the implementer, and all our ULBs will be the implementer for this regime. And still, it is there is a discussion going on the EPR model. What kind of model will be the best suited for our country? It is not that the European regime will work in India. So that's why we are closely working with CPCB and MOEFCC on this EPR regime. Marine litter is a subject. Mahua, it is MOEFCC is dealing this subject, but Mahua as a pilot, we have taken 3 cities. GIZ is supporting in this for marine litter program. And we are using all sorts of technology how to decrease this plastic pollution in encourage recycling and recyclers to bring all the recyclers on the mainframe. So right now more than 1 lakh that informal workers are in our mainstream. They are attached with some of the ULBs and working in our MRF centers. So such kind of initiatives are taken. So this year in our SBM, our emphasis is on MRF. We are also financing the MRF and technology, how to bring best technology for recycling of these plastics so that the requirement of virgin plastic is reduced. So these are some of the things I wanted to share. Still our focus is on segregation of waste. Waste segregation is our prime motto in all ULBs, and all citizens are requested, and we are also through our media, we are also encouraging all the cities, all the citizens to join the movement for segregation of their waste. If the waste is segregated, it's a benefit to the whole country, that our processing cost is reducing by 50-60%. So these are some things from my side. Thank you. I'll stop sharing and
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jha. It was really encouraging to note the way Government of India is moving forward and with an emphasis on segregation at source. Our WeCare members have also been interested in such projects to partner with government on ensuring segregation at source, because once the material is soiled with other categories of waste, it loses its value, and the overall plastic waste management really becomes unsustainable and more resource consuming rather than resource efficient. So as we aim to bring along efficiency in the waste management system, we all need to partner and collaborate on the resources that we have, so that we have some impacts to be seen. As a nation, we can make progress on that. Thank you so much for sharing these thoughts, and we would be in touch with you to how we can take these things forward, and seek your guidance on how we can work collaboratively. Now I would like to turn upon, now I would like to turn upon Dr. Rachna Arora, team leader GIZ, because she is bringing some perspective on the marine litter and EU resource efficiency and initiative. And I would like to just, because the flow of the meeting is going away, I think Rachna would better fit in now, and then I would switch to Mr. Jha, Mr. Sujay Jha from Hari Bhari. Yeah, over to Rachna. Yeah.
Thanks, Kamal. Thanks for inviting, and happy World Environment Day to everyone. Yeah, I think I would just begin from what I heard Mr. Atul Sood actually talk about circular economy solutions, because I think this is where the industry globally is also heading to. And we also heard from Mr. Jha talk about the entire scale that they are looking at, where I also see a lot of linkages to what he mentioned around circularity, as well as also about the entire question of uh, yeah, recycling and better uptake with the industry, as in designing EPR schemes and all. Yeah, so I think also referring to the workshop title, which says decoding. So I'd like to just begin around some 4 or 5 key elements, which I think are essential to just look through. And I'm sure across today in the panel, we'll actually hear uh, quite a lot from our panelists as well about it. So these questions are largely in terms of the policy design and its uptake. So when we look at the current policy landscape, the entire question of prevention of plastic waste generation, as well as what kind of support mechanisms are we talking about when it comes to plastic recycling, the policy measures that are needed to ensure this entire environmental externality, which is to be addressed along the value chain, because I think that's quite crucial and important, and as well as also to consider the entire question that we have around the high quality recycled material that we're talking about, because we did hear from the panelists before about the enhancing resource efficiency. So I would say higher quality of recycled material is and can be ensured if we actually have a better policy design and an uptake by the industry, by the government, by the stakeholders as well. So that I would say is one of the key elements. The other major piece is to actually focus around innovation, because I think that's where a lot of process changes when it comes to different life cycle stages, design, consumption, uh, production, then the waste management bit comes in. So what kind of innovation are we actually talking about so that we can bend or relook at the plastic curve, which is actually increasing and increasing? And then, of course, even though we inspire or we work around looking at traceability, looking at reduction through landfill kind of taxation and other, but still there is leakages. And I think these leakages are the one which is one of the key elements when we link plastic and marine litter. So this is where I think a lot of role of innovation comes in place to actually look at how do you actually bend this curve to a downward progression. The third key principle I would say is to actually look at the secondary plastics market. And we've seen it. I think pandemic was mentioned. We've seen it during the COVID, the entire upsurge that has happened with this entire notion of health, well-being, and then the products being packaged into several kind of layers, and of course the entire boom around the e-commerce and packaging there. Even though there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of change, but I think the environmental and economic consequences of these measures, which address trade issues, and not just locally, this is also to be done quite at a global scale, because this has a global impact as well. So looking at the global trade flows on plastic, and then the value chain I mentioned before as well, what are the key barriers which actually affect the entire sustainable plastic design? Because I think this is quite key to look at of how do you actually design products which are sustainable, and of course they have a lesser impact across the value chain. So what kind of policies could be designed which are much more upstream and can prevent predation issues as such? So if I just pick up one kind of element around innovation at the plastic value chain, so we can start around the plastic production, materials and value chain, product design I already mentioned, consumption practices, and waste reduction. So this is certain instruments, elements that we can consider across the plastic value chain. But I think the innovation that's happening around is largely around the process technology. We still need to consider behavior innovation much more in a focused way, because I think there are changes which we see across on different sectors, and especially even on plastics. Just using a single-use plastic ban, for instance, might be not so powerful tool. But if you look around elements which can support the entire single-use plastic, and that has happened traditionally across Europe as well. The single-use plastic was not a one-day thing. It actually took them decades to announce the single-use plastic ban and then create those behavioral process innovation-related models which can support the consumers and nudge towards instruments like 3D printing, which is now quite well in discuss, product service system models, where you actually just think about and sharing models as well. So I would say circularity actually brings in a lot more rather than just the better design, better recycling targets and all of that. So we need to consider looking at the entire innovation bit quite a lot. And there, of course, is a lot happening. Kamal mentioned and introduced our projects. I would just say that we've actually recently started a project, which is a bilateral project with the Ministry of Environment and Forest, financed by our German ministry, BMU, Ministry of Environment, federal government. And this project is actually looking at circular economy solutions to prevent or to reduce the marine litter. And this project actually brings in a lot of elements, as I just mentioned, around working across with the state pollution control boards, working with the private sectors to actually look at supporting better monitoring and compliance to EPR, but also designing pilot measures which can actually demonstrate the transition, which can actually demonstrate a technological measure, working across in these sites in Pulicat, which is in Chennai, Trivandrum, in Kerala, as well as Lucknow in UP. So these three sites actually are the areas where we actually demonstrate the measure, but we also showcase how does the EPR implementation require an entire ecosystem approach. And of course, looking quite closely to work around with the private sector. And that's why this workshop is quite interesting to hear all of you, where we actually also just look around the entire single-use plastic bit, which is soon to come with the Ministry of Environment as notification. I think the major crux would be to actually support alternatives also being developed or tried or tested across, because only ban would not be a solution. You need to create mechanisms by which these alternatives actually are much more competitive, as well as also drive an entire market transition. So we look at working around with the support the B2B collaboration for standards, for certification, and also support through a lot of policy dialogues in this space. So we would actually launch the project on 8th of June. So I also invite most of you can join this launch, which is by the Honorable Environment Minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, and our State Secretary from the German Ministry. So yeah, I would say those kind of initiatives, which are largely international bilateral cooperation projects, actually bring in a lot of aspect of implementation support. But the other bit I would also like to mention is the bulk generators. What I just mentioned around, I think they bring in a lot of aspect which we can consider around the change process. For instance, if you are actually able to tap the hotel industry, the tourism, and in the morning actually we had a large workshop which was actually with a lot of state governments reflecting around the role of tourism, role of citizens in this entire engagement. And we work around with a lot of innovators, and we have seen it across. There's so much, I hear a lot of background sound. Okay, yeah. So we do see a lot of innovation that's happening in India. It's also globally recognized in the World Economic Forum and all of that. But these innovators, we need to actually think around supporting the entire ecosystem. Because right now, I think that I see as a little missing link when on one side we have this entire command and control approaches to ban, but on the other side, we still need to promote the innovation aspect, as well as to look at the alternatives which can actually support an entire economy to come around, like kind of looking at reducing the plastics in the market. So I would say collaboration is key. And I think this entire, one of the examples that we see, and it's being done in India as well, Lucro, which has actually received the entire funding from the Circulate Capital, plus Wellspun Limited, trying to close this loop through this entire for the packaging waste streams. Now, these are certain, and this, of course, has a circularity capital support. So I think access to finance, which is a big issue when it comes to these companies or when it comes to these kind of innovative projects. So this is something that this collaboration looks at, that you actually work around the chain. Then, of course, I think worldwide we have seen that it actually, the ban, as I mentioned, is across different products, requires an entire incremental approach to change the economy and public behavior. And I think this is what I mentioned we are launching this 2 months drive with the ministry just to create an awareness around how do you actually create and listen to the citizens, how do you make them aware, get the industry along, and then you talk about the entire design change, material chemistry, and other things. I think because this will not happen over months, this needs a long-running, sustained engagement with the citizens. Just one of the last examples that I'd just like to highlight, again, touching from citizens, and we also heard today some examples from Himachal and other states, how they actually kind of look at using heavily taxation and how they've been able to run this entire plastic ban in their state. So yeah, I would say very interesting lessons to draw from states like that, but also for the citizens, at times the touch and feel kind of things also impact. So if I may just take an example, for instance, H&M, one of the stores in Stockholm, actually has a new garment-to-garment recycling system. So we as consumers could actually first time in the store get an idea of what happens to an old garment when it's recycled into new. How is it shredded? How are the fibers used? I think this kind of things could actually bring a lot of like the change, consumer behavior change, where you actually just look at how does sustainable sourcing from a recycled material could actually be something that citizens are contributing towards as well. Similarly, I think around circularity, we've seen a lot of discussions around standards, biomaterials, and other bit. And I think there also we need a larger engagement with the industry, with the value chain partners. Again, one example here, largely from the EU, Circularize, Covestro, and Domo Chemicals, right? They're actually looking at setting up this entire open standard for a secure exchange of data around the plastic value chain. Now, this can actually enable not only just better recycling, but also reusing and repurposing for the entire kind of value chain at a massive scale. So I think these kind of standard structure would actually promote an industry-led initiative. And I think I still see that this entire process as well as behavior innovation. This can actually can be one or two of the enablers to push the industry, to support the government towards this entire implementation. And I think, of course, EPR as a policy instrument does nudge the industry towards this change. And so happy to take questions on this, but yeah, I think I've tried to address it briefly in the time given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachna. And we are getting a lot of questions in our chat box. So I would like to inform the attendees that you take the questions after the discussions. Maybe some of your questions would be addressed through our moderated discussion. So thank you, Rachna. I think you have made out 4 larger bucket of action points that can be undertaken by the industry as well as in partnership with the government. And the very interesting in the social systems. Social systems means the people's behavior towards the waste. How every citizen in the country is actually disposing of its waste. Also, until unless we change that behavior, whatever system we are going to create at a downstream level, it's not going to give us the desired results. Then the other part is on the material science, which is generally not talked about, issue or a kind of a concept in this discussion. Everyone talks about waste, but there are a lot of innovation which is happening at the side of material. We have Sujay from Dow Chemicals. We turn to him in a later section. First, let me call upon Mr. Sujay Jha, who is the CEO of Hari Bhari Recycling. Thank you, Mr. Jha, for joining in today. And in the context of what we have discussed so far and what Rachna has just mentioned, that there are certain social systems which impacts how we addresses the waste, and your organization is basically on ground feeling those social systems day in, day out. We would like to hear from you. What's your take on that, and your basically ideas of how we need to scale up these kind of initiatives. Over to you.
I'd like to thank you, Kamalji, and of course Atulji, for giving me this opportunity, and of course Mr. BK Jha for sir, who has given us a completely new perspective. The way Swachh Bharat mission is going to be a major driver and for the future of waste management in India. I mean, Mr. Jha, in fact, I'll just give you a flavor. He has, in fact, completely overhauled the system, the earlier system which was there, and he's brought in completely new type of systems, in the ministry, which makes a lot easier for, companies like us who have been working on the ground for the last many years. In fact, I'll just give you a little bit flavor. Ratna has given fantastic points on marine, as well as some of the points which I would like to capture in a much more detailed perspective would be bulk generators. And Mr. Jha, if you had given earlier perspective on the quantities of waste, no? uh, in India we have almost about 150,000 tons of waste which is there, which is generated every day, and in almost and that is being captured in many cities. We have almost in urban almost 4,500 cities. So you can imagine the amount of cities there are. And those cities are divided into A, B, C, D, whatever categories. Out of that, in terms of give you a flavor, almost 26,000 tons of plastic waste is generated. Now you can imagine, Rachna pointed on the marine part of it, and I'll just give you a flavor. One of the major dramas of marine, I would say water, was last in 2019, when there was a huge flood situation which had happened in Patna because of plastic choking which had happened in that city. That was a very it was a new perspective which came, and now a lot of cities like Patna, Kanpur, Allahabad, which is in the Ganges circuit, will get affected because of this plastic choking that is happening across. Mind you, just throwing the plastic around is not a big issue, but we don't realize as individuals that this can create a huge problem. And one of the things is that river choking is happening. This we are seeing across. You know, uh, just to come give you a flavor of the things today, we are in a situation where only 43%, segregation of waste is being done. And this is the data that I have taken from some big organizations. Now, 57% is not segregated. That's a big problem. You can't imagine the problem here again. We are doing like in Allahabad, and just to give you an example of city like Allahabad, there's 80 wards are there, and 80 wards constitutes around 250,000 households. Now we have to collect waste from each and every household, get it to the MRF or the Dhalaukars as we have called it, and then take it again from that, the compactors take it to the vehicles take it to the plant, where we are again processing the waste and processing the waste into various types of commodities. Now, earlier, lot of I mean, if you go into pre-2000 era, there was no concept like this. Very less concept was this, like processing of waste was not happening too much in India. Now, what we have done is we are trying to create a 360-degree approach towards processing, where say almost 15 to 18% of the waste which we bring into plant is converted into compost. Compost is what? It is basically a Javik khad. Javik khad. I mean, it's like a khad. It's like a urea. All the components of a thing. Maximum gets converted into compost. Rest of them, the leftovers of the waste is converted into what we call an RDF. RDF is almost 30% of that waste, which is in our plant. And I tell you, most of the plants which are existing in India today will have a similar type of situation. Gets converted into refuse derived fuel. Now, these refuse derived fuel, in turn, they are used as fuel for a cement plant, or it can be used for, if you pelletize them, create more calorific value for them, then they can be used further for as an alternative fuel, which is to coal. Now, if you look at the calorific value of this RDF, it's almost around 2,500 to 3,000, which is equivalent to it's a lower quality of coal, which is known as bituminous coal, which is almost equivalent to that level, 3,000. It can go to 4,000 if you add some level of calorie to it, calorie value to it. Now we are trying to, we have now leftovers in terms of this is plastics, which are again number of plastics. There are many categories of plastics. The experts will know better, like HDDP, which is high definition plastic, and LDDP, PP, PVCs. These type of plastics, which can be used in two types of things we have done. One is that we are doing a plastic granule plant, a small plastic granule plant, and another is a plastic to diesel plant. So rest of the waste which are left either go into the landfill or they are known as inerts. Inerts are basically those which cannot be at all used for future purposes. Now here, one of the things which we also want to do is bulk generators, which Ratna was pointing out. Bulk generators, now we have installed a 2-ton plant of plastic diesel. Now this type of plants can be installed in various type of larger institutes which has say 2-ton waste. You can say in a colony, in a say in a hotel, very large hotel groups can take this type of solution. Or there's one more solution in a bulk generator which is called a composter. A composter basically helps to convert the organic waste into a compost type of material in a small situation, like say it'll be a 500 kilo plant being installed in a hotel or a 1-ton plant being installed in a hospital. No, now if you look at the COVID situation now, where a lot of plastic is being generated through whatever we are using, like for example the mask, various types of masks are there where we're using plastics of various different kinds. Now this is creating another big problem, which is a big societal problem, which is the biomedical waste. The biomedical waste problem cannot be left alone, because in today's situation, if you look at every city, there's huge amount of biomedical waste consumption that is happening. Now this type of biomedical, you can say, is medicine, syringe. Now even when you're looking at hospitals, there is a huge crisis there, and we are not able to look at that solution. We don't have a particular solution which can help us completely eliminate the biomedical waste, because ultimately that will create huge problem in today's situation, especially in COVID situation. If you mind you, it's a very, very tough situation. So from my perspective, I'm handling municipal solid waste, but I'm really worried about the way biomedical waste will be handled, because that is a big plastic component area. And a lot of companies are trying to help us or help the municipalities in various cities, but still this problem, you'll be reading a lot of newspapers in Times of India or wherever. A lot of case studies are coming where this biomedical waste is creating problems. Now, some of the aspects which I would like to also highlight is the informal sector, where we are having a lot of problems in terms of these informal sectors are known as kabadi walas. Now, I personally feel it's a big, big problem. I mean, if you compare with the other foreign countries, US, UK, Canada, wherever I have visited some of the countries, and even China I visited. Uh, this type of problem is not there in terms of exponential way, where each city you will have a kabadi community, and they are subdivided into many parts. And there's I'll give you one small case study. I mean, I'll take a few minutes in that. There's a case study in a city like Indore, or say in MP cities, any of the MP cities. There is a Jagirdari system existing there. And this type of Jagirdari system is existing in a lot of the cities, even in UP, like Meerut and all. Now, as an operator, I cannot go in those cities, because there's a family tradition that is happening, and they are the one who collect this plastics. They collect the plastic, they segregate the plastic, they sell the plastic. Now, if you look at the situation, what happens ultimately is that it is good in terms of creating an ecosystem, but then lot of plastic problems come out of that, because there is proliferation of plastic around the landfill. You're not able to convert those plastics which are sold out and in the cities. into proper format like an electricity or, as I said, plastic diesels, because these are totally controlled by the unorganized sector. In terms of how we can solve it, I personally feel today in India, if you compare China, which has more than 150 plants of waste to energy, that would be a very, from a very macro level, I'll say yes, it will be a good way to solve the problem of India by installing waste to energy in every city. But the whole thing is we have to understand a mechanism. 25 cities of India, 25 to 30 cities of India consume almost, contribute about 600 tons of waste per day. So those are the first cities where an electricity or a high definition solution can be installed. Apart from composting, composting has to be done along with electricity. I'm suggesting this has to be done because, but electricity can definitely solve major problems in the larger cities. For the smaller cities, the basic problem can be solved by installing bulk generators, for the B cities, for the C cities, where there are major hotels, where major hospitals are there, major institutes are there, like IFCO, NTPC, they have large institutes in various smaller cities also. Those places, bulk generators can solve a major bit of problems. And for the smallest cities, I'm suggesting even a small, say, composter, say there's only 10 tons of waste coming in, very small city, a composter can solve this problem, or a small plastic to diesel plant of 500 kilos can solve that problem. So this type of things I have really thought where, which may help to solve some of the problems which is long, going on in this country. Last but not the least, I would like to also highlight, some of the areas where we really need to innovate. Rachana pointed out on the marine aspect. I would really like to point out on the landfill aspect where we need to really innovate. So many landfills are being accumulated across the country. If just to give you a flavor, almost a city of Madras, or city of Ahmedabad can be put in the entire landfill. That is the type of landfill we have. Almost 350 kilometers in the entire country. I'm talking. That will be a big problem for land after a few years, maybe after 5 to 10 years outlook if you look at, and that will have major societal impact because landfill problem, if we don't solve, we'll continuously be having this, increase of landfill and decrease of our area of living within the city. So we must think of, totally controlling landfill also. And for that, I would suggest new technologies should be brought in within the country. A lot of R&D should be supported, especially the new startups who are doing a lot of good works across Bangalore, across various cities. I would suggest the government should really help those startups and bringing them into the fold of mainstream. Thank you. I think
Thank
this
you.
is what I wanted to talk
Thank you, Mr. Jha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. You had given a very comprehensive view of what's going on ground, what are the key challenges day in, day out. And it's important for all of us to take a note of ever increasing, municipal solid waste in the country. And the plastics is just 7 to 8% of its overall weight. But then,
Absolutely.
but if we segregate it on source, the plastic itself is a resource generation, stream of the waste, but also the other type of waste can be handled in a much better way in terms of composting, in terms of having RDF and these kind of things. So thanks to you for bringing out these points. And now I would request, we have been just joined in by Mr. Devansh Yadav, who is the Deputy Commissioner and District Collector of Changlang District of Arunachal Pradesh. Mr. Yadav, a warm welcome to you on this panel.
Thank
And
you.
it's really, we are really encouraged that we have an official who is coming right from the, from his jurisdiction to share his thoughts as well as his experience on how plastic waste is actually, whether you are seeing it plastics as a menace or you are seeing plastics as a resource generation stream. Over to you, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very clearly. Yes.
Yeah, so probably we can start with the sharing of the presentation and then we'll go about the experience sharing.
Sure, sure. Vidisha, can you please project the presentation? Uh, uh, Vidisha, you have to share the presentation. Yeah.
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 So, good
Yes,
afternoon, or
please.
rather,
Yeah.
next 1 minute, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Devansh Yadav, currently District Collector in Changlang district of Arunachal Pradesh. And most of you would not have heard about Changlang. You might recollect Namdafa Tiger Reserve, which is located in our district. And ours is the second most populous and second largest district of Arunachal Pradesh. When we are talking about waste management and also how to make plastic an asset and not a liability, I would like to share the experience that we have had while we have worked with Recycle for the past 2 years in managing the plastic waste in our district. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. Uh, So our experience with recycled plastic is that basically what we have done is that single-use plastic, we have got it segregated at the level of various urban development agencies and also partly at household level. And based on that, we have sent the plastic for plastic shredding, and we have used that plastic for road construction, and we have sold that plastic and earned revenue. So this is in a nutshell what our model is all about. And what that has done is that has reduced the amount of plastic waste in our landfills. That has also improved the longevity of our roads, and that has provided revenue to our gram panchayat. Recycle has been working with us. They have been supporting local youth who are running this plastic shredder unit, and that has in turn provided an employment to the local villagers. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the basic process mechanism. When we start with plastic waste, of course, we have to do the collection that is done by various urban development agencies. And there is a segregation which is happening. Now, of course, segregation cannot happen 100% in a country like India with a lot of resource constraints. So what we have done is that we have engaged self-help groups. These self-help groups get incentive, monetary incentive for every kg of plastic which they segregate. And this segregated plastic in the stage 2, it is sent for plastic shredding. After this plastic is shredded, we sell it to the contractors who in turn use it for the roads. As of now, we are working with NHIDCL, which is a Government of India PSU, and it is having the mandate of constructing highways. And we are working with this PSU for use of plastic in road construction. Next slide, please. So this is how the project has come about. As you know that Recycle has been our partner, and through extended producer responsibility, various waste generation companies, private companies, they have been supporting us with Recycle as the conduit. And PepsiCo, Unilever, Godrej, and Johnson and Johnson and other companies, they have been working in close coordination with us, and we are ensuring that their waste is in turn utilized for transportation of plastic waste and then using it to shred it. We have also used corporate social responsibility fund, CSR fund from Oil India Limited. because in our district there are a couple of oil rigs which are being run. So this project, the unique aspect is that it has zero government funding. It is entirely funded through local resources and through EPR and CSR. Even the panchayat revenue fund, which has been used, it has been utilized locally for creating the plastic shredder unit. So I'll start with the next stage. But before that, I would just like to tell a short bit that how this whole thing started. Now, Changlang is located, as I said, in eastern part of Arunachal, and we have a rich flora and fauna. We have a national park, and it is biodiversity hotspot. In such a place, when development is happening at a rapid pace, plastic waste is clogging our water and river streams. These river stream waters then in turn get polluted, and our water sources then don't provide us safe and clean drinking water. So what happened is that in 2019, we planned to establish a landfill site in one of the new subdivisions, which is Bordumsa subdivision. And we asked all the villages in that area that which village would be willing to donate their land. Now, none of the villages were ready, of course. So what we did is that we had to find an incentive for them. So what we did is, rather than just asking for a landfill site, we asked them that if you provide us a landfill site, we'll provide you jobs. We'll also provide you a source of revenue. How that was to be done? Well, that was to be done through the plastic shredding unit, which would be generating revenue, and people who would be recruited for running this plastic shredder unit, they would be recruited from the local village, and it would be a source of income and employment. So this is how we were able to convince a village. And in that, the landfill site and the plastic shredder unit site was established in the year 2019. Next slide, please. Yeah. So apart from plastic shredding, of course, we have been working and we have been trying to find different ways which not just take care of our plastic waste, but also have an incentive and awareness with regards to local population. For example, this greenhouse which has been made by plastic bottles. Now, in a subtropical area like ours, these type of greenhouses, what we have found in our study, because we have made a couple of these greenhouses in our jurisdiction, and we have found that the growth of saplings is further accelerated if we have this kind of a design. And the dual benefit is that we get the benefit of a greenhouse, it is low cost, and at the same time, our plastic waste is used in this. So this is the basically all about the Changlang plastic model. And for that matter, our project was also shortlisted for the PM Awards 2020-21. And we have been working with the local villagers. So whenever someone asks that plastic has been used in road for a very long period of time, what is the unique aspect of this project? The first aspect I would like to say is that, first of all, we are receiving no government funding. This project is entirely self-funded and it is entirely sustainable. Why sustainable? Because the project has an incentive for the population or the village where the project is located. The villagers are earning their livelihood, they are selling their plastic. As of date, over 12 tons of plastic has been sold to various road contractors at a rate of around rupees 30 per kg. And based on that, the villagers are earning their livelihood, and 3 people have been employed in running the plastic shredder unit. As we all know that Northeast is an area of heavy rainfall. In such a heavy rainfall area, what we have found is that use of plastic, 8% mixed with bitumen, it has increased the life of our roads. What it has done is it has reduced the penetration of water. And as we know that water is the main enemy of road. So by improving the quality of road, we have also ensured that the larger development of the state is also beneficial. So what we are trying to do through this project is that we are trying to start these low cost models in multiple districts, because in Northeast generally the population is less. We have a population of around 2 to 3 lakhs in a district. In such a place, you can't have very big water waste processing plants. The kind of transportation facilities required are not there. So what can be done for plastic waste? Well, perhaps a plastic shredder is an example, because what it does is that only with a project cost of around 4 to 5 lakh, we can start this waste processing facility, and it becomes an incentive for the local population. And it also creates the larger awareness in the population to use and segregate their plastic in a more careful manner. And on the occasion of World Environment Day, I would like to say that government of Arunachal Pradesh has also taken note of this project. And even today, we sold 1,000 kgs of plastic on the occasion of World Environment Day. And it was a very good experience seeing that the project has sustained itself over a period of past 2 years. And as government of Arunachal Pradesh has shown its interest, we are hoping that similar projects would be replicated in other parts of the state. So this is all from my side. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Yadav. It was really heartening to see on-ground actions which are not only self-sustainable but also inclusive in nature. You have bring along the villagers and get them motivated to do their part, and that's not only helping them to earn more money, but also is adding new economic activity in the uh, uh, in your district. So thank you so much for sharing this, and with the context of what Swachh Bharat Mission is doing, uh, Mr. Bineja, before you arrived, Mr. Bineja has given a presentation how Government of India, MOA is taking action on ground, and the kind of projects or the models that they are now looking at. So we would be now switching to after listening a lot from government side, I'm now switching my side to industry. And now I would request Ms. Juhi Gupta, who is the head of sustainability from PepsiCo India, to share her perspective in terms of, PepsiCo India has been the flag bearer in terms of EPR implementation. They have so many projects, even this project, what Mr. Yadav mentioned, you have also partnered with them. Maybe, Juhi, your views in terms of how EPR has been, and now what industry look forward from this concept, and how you want to partner with the stakeholders, because the overall thematic of this session is creating partnerships. So basically, now moving forward, we have learned in the last 3-4 years that partnerships are required, whether it's between government to government, government to state, government to industry, or maybe projects to society. So this combinations we need to look at, and create partnerships. So over to you, Juhi, for your intervention. Yeah.
Excuse me, Kamal. Kamal.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a program at 5:30. I may be leaving by starting at 5 o'clock. Please.
Sure, sir. Sure. We have noted, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Kamal.
Juhi,
And at the onset, I would like to, thank you and VK for having me in this panel discussion. It's really heartening to hear the other panelists, talk about the different models that can be, played out. Dr. Rachna Arora really mentioned some very, very key points that I've taken note of. And it was also heartening to hear the, last speaker, DM, sir, talk about the different, programs that they have run very successfully, sustainable plastic waste management with the communities at large. So I think these are some of the models that we need to replicate and scale across all the geographies to make them successful. Going about what PepsiCo does in terms of plastic waste management, we have a sustainable plastics vision where we want to build a world where plastic need never become waste. Again, there are 3 tenets or 3 pillars to this philosophy, which are the 3 R's, which I think Atul has also touched upon: reduce, recycle, and reinvent. So in terms of reduction, PepsiCo has rolled out a couple of initiatives like lightweighting of its PET bottles. And when you look at the snacks segment, then we're looking at a technology called compaction technology, which allows the snacks to settle at the bottom of the bag and allows optimal packaging opportunities. So this kind of helps us in reduction of our virgin PET dependence, and more such initiatives are being rolled out as we talk. Globally, again, while in India there is still a prohibition on food grade application for using recycled packaging options, but globally we are using RPET, and 100% RPET is being used for some of our water brands like Life Water in US. So when the prohibition goes away in India, we are hopeful of again converting a lot of our portfolio also through recycled PET application, and globally that target is 25% integration into our products. Going again to recycling, we have been working with multiple waste management partners and agencies on a pan-India basis to do our EPR implementation programs. So we realized that, while these programs are essential, I think Rachna also touched upon behavioral change aspect, which are critical to the success of sustainable plastic waste management, because the core issue today is lack or absence of source segregation of waste. So there is a lot of behavioral change that is required, and PepsiCo has been taking up these awareness initiatives in the form of beach cleanups or blog runs or school awareness drives on plastic waste management. I would just like to touch upon two of such initiatives. We announced it yesterday, and some of you may have seen also the Tidy Trails program or campaign that we've announced yesterday in partnership with United Way. So we are going to be covering Mathura and Varanasi, where a mobile van is going to be going across points in these two cities, Mathura and Vrindavan, to collect post-consumer plastic waste. They are going to be covering about 200 establishments and more. And apart from the waste collection, plastic waste collection, key focus is going to be on creating awareness through on-ground events and also virtual events, because COVID obviously. So because of the COVID, there are challenges in doing ongoing events. So we are relying on the virtual programs for effective rollout of sustainable plastics. Should I go on? Yeah. Okay. Then
Professor Vasudevan, can you please mute your? Yeah. Continue to be here.
Thank you. Another program that we have is the school awareness program on plastic waste management. We have run it successfully in Darjeeling and Varanasi schools, where we are taking the students through the importance of source segregation of waste. And we have kept bins in schools, and we are encouraging children to get plastic waste from their houses and put it in these bins and not really litter. And the partner there, NEPRA, is collecting this waste on a regular basis and converting it into useful products. What this enables is not only an environmental consciousness amongst the young minds, but also a social mindset, because when they are able to see that their efforts are able to convert this used plastics into useful products like benches and chairs, these are being given to schools, underprivileged schools, where students do not have benches and chairs. So there's a social consciousness or social privilege also that that is instilled in the young minds. So this is another program that we are doing with partners. So I would say that, for our 2019 volumes, we have been able to do 100% equivalent of our products, of a plastic that we generate through our packaging in March of this year. And all the plans are in place for the previous year, which is 2020. All the 100% EPR achievement is planned, projects are planned for achieving in December 2021. So we are hopeful of that, and we are working in close collaboration with CPCB and MOEFC through WeCare and other industry consortiums to kind of align on the SOPs that have been rolled out, and also the amendments that are there in the plastic waste management rules. Then lastly, on the reinvent part, that I would like to talk about, some of the initiatives. While a lot of work is happening on the EPR side, but again, important part is on the back end, how you are driving packaging, sustainable packaging design, which Dr. Rachna also talked about. So our R&D teams are working on this, and we have a global target that our 100% of our portfolio by 2025 is going to be either recyclable, compostable, or biodegradable. In India, we are already doing deployment of polyolefin films in our snack part. So those are, and in the future, in the coming future, there are more such interventions being planned. So this again is a very, very important part of a sustainable packaging design. So all the elements really need to come together to define a successful, sustainable, packaging waste management scenario. And partnerships, again, collaborations, partnerships do play a very, very important role, because one company, two company, industry alone cannot do this. Governments need to come together, regulators, civil society, waste management partners, recyclers. I think entire, every point in the value chain needs to come together to make this happen. I'm very happy to hear, some of the speakers talk about some of these models, successful models that are being rolled out already in various urban local bodies. I think key enabler for the next steps would be to really, unlock those partnership opportunities. Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you, Juhi. You very comprehensively mentioned a lot about the PepsiCo. 10 minutes is not a sufficient time for the actions that you guys do, and kudos to you. Right from the ground and to the policy, you are active in every space, and you are not only leaders in terms of using materials in FMCG, but you are also leaders in terms of how the project needs to be implemented by bringing society on board, uh, uh, engaging with children, engaging with other sections of the society like farmers. On your business side, you have set a great example. Now I would request Mr. Barun Banerjee, head packaging of Nestle India, to share his thoughts on his uh, uh, view, basically the industry's perspective, because Barun is a founding member of WeCare, and he has been guiding us in a lot of policy discussions, as well as, on the material side, he's an expert. So I would request Barun to share his thoughts on what has been the experience in the last 2-3 years, how you look at EPR, and what could be the real partnerships you think would make EPR more implementable. And also on the material side, what are the new innovations that are coming up that you would like to share with all the participants in this conference? Over to you, Varun.
Thank you, Kamal, and Jui also mentioned about the material and other developments which is happening in the industry and at a R&D level. And all the speakers, I think we heard a very good insight of how do we take this entire brainstorming to a reality, going forward. I think it's very important that one aspect which I really look at it in the context is that we believe that we have to have the better world, and it begins with us, all of us. So that's first thing. So how do we really design our packaging? First of all, I think the 6 approach which Alan MacArthur and United Nations program has mentioned, and all the industries are following. I think it's the also Dr. Rachna touched upon is the right material combination. I think what at the design stage itself, we should put the right material in the context. I think that should be the start of the process. I think we should not use unnecessarily material for the packaging. We have to see how do we really reduce the virgin plastic going forward. I think there is a clear direction coming in that at least 30% we should look at by 2025 to really not increase the virgin plastic in the systems. So by doing this, we are actually slowing down the plastic tap, if you can compare it with the water tap. So we don't want to increase the plastic getting into the landfill and the ocean. So first thing is the right way to manage this plastic. I think that's something which we have to do it through the policy, the processes. What we are taking it up today as an organization, as WeCare, what we are driving it is that the EPR is a collaborative effort, and we all agreed that it is a common vision, and we have to make our country world much cleaner and manage this plastic in a different ways and means. So we heard the land management, which Devansh also mentioned recently, that how the greenhouse part with the plastic bottle is done. Similarly, we are hearing a lot of pyrolysis plant coming in, the diesel one which Sujay mentioned. I think these are the small incremental step which has already started in. Now the future which is looking at is the chemical recycling. The chemical recycling in a bigger way, bigger capacity, where we should really want the government, the policy, and brand owners to really collaboratively work, and this should be part of the first, I think, way to really look at a bigger scale in the country, in the state which like Maharashtra, Gujarat. I think we should put up a plant of bigger capacity where this entire plastic to fuel and then making it a virgin plastic. I think that's the final goal for all of us, which is the circular economy. So create the value of the plastic, but it should be in the economy and out of the environment. I think that should be our first way to look at as a strategy level. This should be built up, and it has come out very clearly that we all are doing the same exercise, and Mr. Vinay has clearly mentioned, I think, the 6 approach which really covers the digital part, the fourth and the fifth and the sixth one, which I saw that the how do you really track, trace the waste entirely. You have to have a good process to really track this entire plastic going into and collection process. So that has to be there, and then incentivizing the organization who are really using the right innovated plastics, and also the products which could be really bringing down the plastic footprint in going forward. These are the something, and the material life cycle analysis is critical. One question which also always comes in our mind is whether the alternative to plastic is the paper. So paper part is the next stage of the development. But in India, the infrastructure and the paper quality availability has to really improve. I think as all the industry members and government members are in this discussion, we should look at how can we improve the quality of the paper itself, so that the barrier paper, bringing those new technology in the country to see that how it can really compatible with the machines. I think thereby we really can shift to the better papers where the things can also shift to a right solution. At the same time, the plastic will remain versatile and will remain at our use, and we have to see how do we really minimize the use of plastic. So it can be you reduce the packaging footprint overall, in your packaging by design. See that the every step of the plastic usage is minimized, and where you see there are alternative, you should really trigger upon it. And I am also seeing that the trend is changing very much to see that how do you really bring this alternate material, like home care products are using recyclable PCR content. How do we really bring this PCR content to our secondary packaging, at least with the right BIS standard, with the right FFSI advocacy, and looking at the entire food safety and packaging safety of the material? If you can really look at some of this polyolefins PCR, which, because the innovation going on, I think the polyolefin route will be the future route. Polyethylene route is the future route. How do we really bring this in our direct food contact packaging material? I think this is where we have to work towards it. Now, as an industry, what we are facing challenges are something like the state and center, the interpretation of the guideline. So there we have to really come up with a very strong document which is consistently followed everywhere. It should not be treated differently. It should be one document, simple to adopt, and really accelerate this entire EPR process, or the reporting process, or the conversion to a better alternative material, and help the circular economy. Similarly, this SOP to implement national EPR, which is just touched upon, I think it is the high time that it should come out. And it should be the 5-zone approach. Rather, it should be, so that everyone works on this 5-zone approach with the ULB and make it happen. And that is where we care with our all like-minded organization. I think we are driving this entire process to see that the plastic which is generated is managed well in a right manner, and it is reported also in a right and transparent way, so that these are the supports, I think, from Pollution Control Board, from ULBs, from urban development should come up to see that the right right policy or right SOP is created, where everybody's participation is there and it is done in a very, very transparent way, so that we are not duplicating anything, because I don't want my suppliers to do the EPR again, or I don't want the third party, the converter to come back and say that we have sold to you, but we are not able to, you are also doing the EPR, I am also doing the EPR. So this kind of duplication should be really avoided, and we should have a very simple document to work on. And Kamal, if I look at the global way of looking at it, I think a lot of material development and innovation is happening in the Nestle world, with our R&D team, with the startup working on the different material combinations. Really, the biodegradable polymers are also a lot of work is happening on the compostable packaging. Similarly, we are also looking at the next step of the thing is the refillable solution, refillable and reusable solution. How to minimize the plastic, but depending it relevance to the country and the requirement of the country, and the people of that place where it is really working solution. So we have a lot of piloted solutions. We did in Purina cat product. We did in Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We are also working on multiple solution for coffee packaging. So these are the futures which has to come with a refillable, reusable solution in the country. I think if we can model those kind of solutions, also the plastic usage will come down and it will be more of a reusable nature of the plastic, which we can see more often used by the citizens, and people will be really benefiting out of it. And we should encourage reusability definitely in the packaging area. And this is where the entire approach is going towards. And thanks. And this is any other point we have. That's it from my side, Kamal, to touch base on. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Varun. And it's really good to note the various initiatives that Nestle is doing. And yes, you are right that there must be consistent policy. If something needs to be implemented at scale, then we cannot fight between center and states and industry at the helm of this ever-ending kind of a fight, that how we interpret, how we implement, what are the value propositions we try to bring in on ground. So thank you for sharing your views. I would now turn to Professor Vasudevan. Professor Vasudevan, I would like to request you to, you have heard a lot about material science. You have learned a lot about initiatives being taken on ground. Now we would request your views in terms of what's your view in terms of, you have been called the plastic man of India. What are the key low-hanging fruits that you see that in next 1 year, if we can implement them, there would be a lot of impacts on ground. We have on this panel from Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. We had heard about initiatives in Arunachal. So over to you now. What are the 3 key areas that we all stakeholders can work to have some impacts on ground? Over to you.
Hari Om. Am I audible to you, Kamal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, but we can't see you. If you can just switch on your video.
Is it okay? Oh no. Video. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can see you.
Yeah. You can see me. Are you able to hear me? Seeing is not important. Hearing me is more important. Thank you very much, Hario. I had a great chance of hearing many people. I'm extremely happy to thank our collector, Yadav, D. Yadav, who has really used my technology and found and certified it, and that's a wonderful thing. And that forms the answer for all the people who are talking, all these earlier people. At one time, I felt I'm a misfit to this panel because people are talking differently, but so many things are going on around us. I don't know why the mind is not open to see what is going on around, and everybody is giving their own view. I would like to add certain important aspect. Why plastic? Why you have plastic? We have all the problem because of the technology development, and we have an environmental problem because of our industry development, deforestation take place, grabbing of lands are there, and we need more glass, everything. Plastic came and substituted all those things and saved the environment. Because of the plastic only, deforestation reduced. and your requirement of good metal and glass and adhesives and cement, all these things reduced because of plastic. Therefore, it is a God's gift that plastic has come, and it is it helped really. I'm happy that I'm talking about the Environment Day. It is a plastic which has helped the environment very much. Remember that. You can take the data of the, I don't, because the short time I don't want to say. After that, how much of plastic is used instead of wood? You can say it is. So plastic is not a problem. Plastic is not a poison. Why the problem has come? It is because of our carelessness and carelessness to the environment only. We simply use plastic and throw us in a most indiscreet manner. And it is where how the sea has got, what is the maximum number of debris that is available? See, it is a cigarette butts. Who do you mean the fish is smoking? The man is responsible for the human being. How they have gone? We only, unless we realize that we are responsible for the plastic, you are putting the blame on somebody. No, we have to understand we are the responsible for that. Therefore, the problem is only man-made. One. Number two, then we talk about single. I want to be very crisp in my lecture. We are talking about single-use plastic. It is poor man's friend, common man's need, day-to-day affair. You can't say no to that. If you ban it, it comes out somehow or other. So you can't ban it. It has to be used, number one. So I am the member of the committee of the single-use committee. But also remember that we know what was the use of the various aspects about that. So single-use plastic and multi-layer plastic, which cannot be recycled, that can be taken care of. So on one side, this is the problem. And what happened? The industry manufacturers market it and forget it. They don't talk about payback system or collecting the waste and helping the people in collecting the waste. No industry comes forward. The people are using it, throwing it because they don't know what to do with that. The government collects it, dumps it, forget it. So if people like that, India will be in the dump yard after some time. So it is our responsibility to take into that. So in that respect, I have done small work. What is the work for which the government and the whole world has been recognizing me? But people, panelists, none of them know about me. That's what I felt very sorry about it. So here, I have simply taken the plastic and used it for coating and mixing with the bitumen. We have laid the road. And the road quality, collector has already told, the road quality is wonderful. No pothole formation. We have laid a road since in 2002, 15 years, no pothole, no crack, it is not affected by rain or anything. Wonderful. And in the process, we say for 1 kilometer road, we say 1 ton of bitumen. And I use 10 lakhs carry back for single lane 1 kilometer road. India has got 46 lakh kilometers of road. You know what is the amount of plastic required? The single use amount, I need 200 lakhs tons of plastic. India has got only 10 to 15 lakhs of plastic. The returning plastic only 15 lakhs. What I need for road alone, 200 lakhs Paris plastic. That's why they not to ban but to plan. So don't say that is pollution can be prevented. Say yes to plastic. So we need more plastic, and the roads are 15 years. No problem. So India will have better road, better facilities, better smart cities, and so on. So the plastic roads are so good and has been recognized by the IRC, and now the government, all the Indian border roads have been laid as the plastic road, and the government, I have talked with the Prime Minister. He said, I said, it is, he awarded me Tech Icon Award, and he said, I know about it, I will implement it. He has the last Republic Day has announced, all highways will be converted to plastic road. And our Finance Minister said, rural roads will be plastic road. So if the plastic road comes, plastic is not a problem. Collection only problem. We need how to collect it. Don't throw it. First, awareness among the public is important. And collect the plastic in the right way. I don't have, Kerala is doing wonderful work. Kerala Clean Corporation is there. There is the government and the private sector, they do. Even this year, they have laid more than 1,000 kilometers road using 12,000 tons of plastic. And the cost of the plastic is per kilo 22 rupees. And Arunachal price, I'm also consenting to the Arunachal price. It is 30 rupees per kilo. So value addition is there. Plastic road is good and no toxic gas, environment friendly. All the plastic can be used. What is the problem? The innovation is there. Why people are talking innovation to put already it is there. Why you are not recognized? Why you not propagated it? And I have developed another product called Plastone, which is the plastic and stone iron that is 10 times stronger than our concrete. The Plastone, no bitumen, no sand, no water, no cement. And we have only plastic and stone that has got the strength of 300 tons of load which can withstand. It can be, I can construct a toilet in 2 hours at the cost of 12,000 rupees. India needs 2 crores of toilets. I need 1 crore ton of plastic. Even for the road, we don't have enough plastic. We want to use all those things. But where is the plastic? And this Plastone can be used not only for construction, for paved blocks, for hollow blocks, for house construction, and if going on tabletops, for all those things, we need thousands and thousands and tons of plastic. Where is it? Therefore, plastic is not the problem. The problem is only human being. You try to plan. You try to have your own plastic. Any industry, let them take. Yesterday, I had a talk with Dow Chemicals, Dow Plastic. They say, come on, get the plastic. We'll give you a solution for that. So plastic, remember that. I want to stress this point. Plastic is not it's a human-made problem. It is not the problem. So it is useful. So people say it is not biodegradable. Yes, gold is not biodegradable. You will have an ornament. Stone is not biodegradable. You construct a house of that. And similarly, plastic is the most useful resource as an adhesive and is able to give beautiful road, beautiful construction, beautiful houses. And for all this, India needs not less than 500 lakhs tons of plastic. We have not even 15 lakhs tons of plastic. What's the problem? So think about it rightly, and the CSR and all those, they must try to use it properly and try to collect it. It's very simple. Plastic is very much useful before. Plastic is useful after. Where is the problem? It's only garbage culture. We only do, whether it is a household or the hotel or a 5-star hotel, wherever it is we people only, we don't do proper. If that, see, when COVID comes, when immediately we have been asked to wear a mask, everybody does it. Similarly, something has been done. COVID, I can say, it is a warning to man. COVID has given an extra importance to plastic. Because of now plastic becomes more useful for PPE and for all many protectors you need plastic only. And remember, COVID made man to go to house arrest. You have been put out. Lockdown is nothing but house arrest. You are only inside. All of this were outside. And people, because you are the problem. Yada ida dharmasya klanit bhavatu. Abhyuktanam adharmasya tadatmanam sudaki. Paritrana vinasa dushkurdam. Dharma samstapana sambhavamike. God has come out in the form of COVID to rectify ourselves. Unless we understand our problem, putting the problem, don't put the problem to anybody. Understand, you are careless, you are cardless. You try to understand, collect the plastic, and plastic is the most useful material. And we can use the plastic for very many purposes. There is no problem. So collect, then stop. For example, marine. You stop. I can develop blocks, hollow blocks, to prevent the sea water comes down. For that, I need enormous amount of plastic. So collecting the plastic, don't put. Let us start from today onward. Don't put plastic on the road. One auto wala in Madurai has written at the back of his auto rickshaw, don't put plastic on road, use plastic for road. If an auto man can understand why we people are not able to understand, I feel very sorry to say this, because none of the earlier prime ministers except the collector could say about this. Please, plastic is not a problem. Especially single-use plastic is not a problem. The more problem comes only with the cell and other things, just got more complicated material. That's what I say. The industries are, what is the role for industry? They must find out a plasticizer which is not toxic. They must find out an alternative for not using multi-layer packing. They can have multi-packets, not multi-layer. And they can separate each one and recycle it. So these are some of the, and biodegradation. They can work on this thing. But with respect to understanding technology available, Material is necessary and we can use it, no problem. Therefore, if you want, I can send my work to all the panelists. I can send it, let them go through it and understand, at least let them think about it first. I would like to know, because in fact, I want to suggest, Kamal, before we agree with this type of panelists, we must try to at least exchange the work that has been done by these people, so that what they're going to talk will be more useful than. Therefore, leaving sitting and a place we are talking something about that I don't want to meet. So I say plastic is very important, God's gift. And plastic is not a problem. It is. And plastic is a problem because of human brain. Plastic is converted to road and construction material. And the need of plastic is enormous. And what I use is all for polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene. Now all those things are being used. No problem. PVC, we are conducting semiconductors. Therefore, there are very many problems, very many products have been developed. No problem with respect to plastic. The problem is only human culture, human collection only. Let us all join together. We care. Yes, let us care about our own generation. Not only the next generation will be okay. You see first a plan, how to collect the plastic, how to use it. There are many people laying the people who want to lay the road, they say we don't have plastic. The other say people that is so much of plastic. What is wrong? Say there is something wrong in this whole communication with respect to material also. So Kamal, I am very happy to talk about this, but see this message is taken to everybody. That is Kamal's duty. So it is not just talking about 10 minutes. It is a work of 15, 20, 25 years of work with the passion to create some awareness in the public, to create a better India. That is what being done. Let us understand that and get it done. India is more important. Man, we are not important. Service and sacrifice is the way of life. Let us think about that. Only by we can improve ourselves. Let us say, just saying Jai Hind is not important. Let us really feel Jai Hind. Wish you happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vasudevan. You have always been a encouraging voice to young professionals. Me has been a good source of inspiration, and what could not be the better day than today, World Environment Day.
India has already had 2 lakh kilometers of road. India has been laid. 11 states have already implemented. 2 lakh kilometers have been laid. That means more than 10 lakhs of plastic has been used. Therefore, it is already there. So why, when it already existing, why people are not aware? That is my problem. People who is working the field. Because we are working only for research. We are not for money. We are not for manufacturing. We are not for expanding our business. But remember, this is a work. That's why they are given the Padma Shri. Why they are given for the very simple work? We have socially relevant work. So think in that direction. So you people kindly think about and try to pass on the information to the people concerned. Try to work together to make India better. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. I first heard you in the year 2018. Your lecture during World Environment Day, first lecture in 2018. Since then, I'm your great follower, and definitely we would take your message across to industry as well as in the policies landscape, interfacing with governments, that these kind of solutions can be thought about it. So India should be open to every sort of solution which is out there.
Again, a statement I am not happy. Not thought about it. Already, all the many countries are behind me are laying it. Why you are thinking about it? You must start implementing it. There's no question of thinking. This should be implemented immediately. That's more important. For the implementation, we care should take more role. That's why I would say that.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I hope I can leave.
Sure,
I want to lecture. It's fine. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Sure. We understand. Thank you. So, thank you to Professor Vasudevan, and we now, with all the inputs that we have received from all the panelists, I would now turn the tide to Dr. Lakshmi Raghupati, who is the former director MOEFCC and has been, leading these discussions, and has been the resource person for various forums, technical committees at the level of MOEFCC as well as other multilateral agencies. So, ma'am, you have heard a lot from all the people, and now as an expert, I would now turn to you. What's your I would like to hear from you. What's your words in terms of how this overall plastics issue needs to be addressed? What, in your opinion, what are the four top or maybe five top action areas that we can move towards, and how industry can play its role? Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal. At the outset, I must congratulate you for having taken lead in this organization. And I'm sure with a person like you, the organization is going to be benefited. And I bless the We Care endeavors. And I also thank the organization and you specifically for this opportunity to make me talk here. Basically, of late, I have been talking too much on plastics, both in the international and national fora. And today, I really found that the essence of things that are coming out from each speaker has been very, very fruitful. And everybody had a different focus and so that selection of speakers and selection of topics, credit goes to you. So basically what we can do with the plastics, and plastics is not so easy. As Dr. Vasudevan has emotionally touched that, plastic has been one of the saviors of environment. When we started off with plastic, it can replace anything under the sun. And it has the multifunctional properties, its capability to hold things for a long time, and also its cheap production because of the cost effectiveness. So it has been one of the products which has become an integral part of our life. And at one stroke of pen or a jerk of a neck, you can't just throw it out. That we have to be very practical. We are saying that, okay, in 2018, which you were mentioning on the World Environment Day, when we took the oath to remove the single-use plastic, how much has been done so far? Globally, because you have given me a topic, leveraging the global learnings of EPR. First, let me come to the global learnings of plastic. And recently, in the past just about a week ago, we had the EPR enforcement specifically for plastic in the EU and other developed nations. We had a representative from US. I was there for India. Then we had the European Union as such. Then there was somebody to speak on Germany. And there was also somebody from Chile. So all of them brought out the same thing, saying that it is not so easy to get rid of plastic overnight. But we have to see how to gradually change. And in that process, something which Rachana had mentioned about sort of a life cycle assessment, and also to find alternatives which can displace the plastic effectively, giving all its qualities, giving all its properties. But what would be its consequence? Here, I just want to give one example. We were very frantically, when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji took a meeting, we said we have to reduce our energy requirements. So we have to we went frantically to replace all tungsten lights and tube lights, etc., to CFLs. So my intention in that meeting was to go and support the meeting because I was representing ministry. But I had to tell them, look, I'm a waste lady. I've been talking about waste, and I don't want to call it a waste because I want to call it a resource, which Rachana also mentioned. We consider waste as a resource. We have a different perspective. We put it in circularity. We have a different activity. So then I said, CFL is going to be a future waste, which is going to be more hazardous and more problematic than what it is today. Every tungsten lamp can be opened up and you can reuse it. But in the case of CFL, just for saving some little bit of energy, we are taking a drastic step of creating a huge wealth of waste. But we said, okay, we'll make it a resource. So here, when I was looking at the enforcement of EPR, as you know, is a sort of a strategy, environmental strategy, which has taken the world by storm, I will say. EPR is the strategy which opened up a new Pandora's box, saying that all resources are, all the waste can be converted into resources. And the first hammer that was struck was on electronic waste. Before e-waste, EPR was not there. EPR actually started in 2000, and then came the electronic waste concept, because we were using electron, just like plastic, we were using a lot of electronic gadgets without knowing what to do with it at the end of life. So they said, okay, let's fix the responsibility on the producer. Somebody who manufactures will take care of it at the end of life or throughout its life. So, but did we ever organize that we reach it back to him? No, we didn't do much. We didn't, unless he comes with a take back policy to take it back. You're not bothered. You give it to your kabadiwala. In India, we have a different economy. So the circular economy, what they speak, we cannot speak. So EPR came with a different perspective. But today, when we talk of EPR and related to plastic, which I want to do, because your focus is also on creating partnership. This is the new endeavor to create partnership. When the representations from EU, Europe, America, everywhere, when they talked about, they said, we cannot ignore the informal sector. And could you believe that they are also talking about the informal sector? And we have a huge population of informal sector. They are doing service to the environment, but we have never recognized their service. When I pleaded the government to have informal sector incorporated, because our national environment policy says you have to integrate the informal sector or non-recognized processing units as an integral part of the value chain, or they have to become an integral part of the system. But they were not ready to do it. But when this particular EPR forum, when I attended, everybody was talking about informal sector. And informal sector have been given certain recognition. And what do they want? And that I'll of course bring it in your 4 or 5 key points. How do we do it? But basically, when we started EPR, why? And EPR is not a very big success. Let me make it very clear. It has hit some stages, but not a real success, because they've tried different amalgamation. EPR as an individual producer responsibility, you just fix it on the producer. He takes it back. He does whatever he wants. Another one is you form a consortium. You say any material at the end of its life is supposed to be a resource. Then you start, because any product which comes out, it is an assemblage of things. It comes with so many things in it. And that means you cannot simply just push it to one producer, because he would be making use of it. And when we were doing this discussion on EPR to introduce it in our e-waste laws, I remember Intel people coming there, say Intel is integral part of your computer system. But who is responsible for, who will check the Intel generation that you're using? Who will be responsible? Are you going to push the entire laptop or a phone to a product, Dell or HP, or are you going to look at Intel also to take it? So these are the smaller issues which came in the EPR, which is still a big challenge faced by them. So let's see what sort of, then in US, I should mention this because seeing this condition, US has amalgamated, just as we say integration of informal sector, US has amalgamated the product stewardship, where they recognize the product and then they say the product stewardship is an integral part of EPR. And the convenience is that they started a bill called bottle bill. The bottle bill was something with the PET bottles and plastics, which were there because there was a huge consumption of it. The bottle bill was started as a small speck, just like your coronavirus at one corner, it started it. And then it spread to the nation and became a national bottle bill by 2020. So just before this, the corona came. So 2020. Now, when we look at plastic, I'll just come to the plastics now, because plastics are 2 types. Plastic is there if you look at municipal solid waste, plastic is there. If you look at electronic waste, plastic is there. If you look at plastic waste, it's plastic. If you look at the batteries, the shell is plastic. So there is plastic in everything. In every waste deals, whatever waste rules we are saying, everywhere there is plastic. In every constituent, every component, there is some plastic element. As the previous speaker also said, if it is a complex plastic, multi-layered plastics, it is very difficult. But if it is anything recyclable or reusable, so we have not mentioned, though the road making is actually a reusing of the plastic. It's not recycling alone, it's a reusing. So when it comes to plastic, we have two plastics. One is the plastic product stream, plastic packaging stream. We have to be very careful to keep them apart. One attempt, because of now lockdown situation, sitting at home, we are buying products through an internet, there's a lot of packaging. So we have not looked at the packaging. It is the packaging which is actually spilling and making a mess out of it. If it is a product, definitely the product goes back for recycling. So when we look at the EPR intentions, if we cannot go by we can go by the products stewardship channel for the products. If we can return the products to the manufacturer, it goes. Now, when it comes to your Pepsi or Johnson & Johnson, I think the whole list of vendors were there, but all of them use plastic for their packaging. Their containers are plastic, and they buy from different. We had certain exercises. We had to see what are the things that is going to be problematic. So there we found that they are buying from different vendors. And different vendors means different qualities. They just do a broad quality control check and package the material, which should be looking similar to what they had sold earlier. So that means the quality is not there. So unless there is a quality check. So here I will give some of the features, because most of the people have already spoken about it. I'm just going to sum it up a certain 4 to 5 points. One is that whatever it is, the plastic, we have never in our rules or anywhere, we have never made the responsibility, given the responsibility to the consumer. We are only saying producer, we are saying that recycler and all. Where do we bring the consumer responsibility? Isn't it the consumer who is using the plastic, who is doing the spillage, who is going to throw it? So for a consumer to be responsible, you have to have all the parameters, that is, make him aware, give him some education, say that this is and plastic, nobody can distinguish, you and me, unless the manufacturer tells our labels. So on every plastic bag or container, it should be labeled what is the plastic that it is made up of. So that means your producer has to inform your consumer that this is a plastic and this is recyclable. This is not recyclable. And a lot of plastic can go for energy production. Energy is one thing which we will be able to manage a huge amount with plastic waste. So first is that we have to have some awareness, so responsibility on the consumer. Unless the consumer is made responsible, your EPR will never work. EPR has to work. And all the places like Chile, Nigeria, and all these developing countries where they are focusing on every individual. They can't fine because that's a poor country. You can't be putting fine on those people who are sitting on the roadside, but you can make them aware. So consumer responsibility. Next is that product. You have to give information about the product, contents of the product, recyclability of the product, and also what are the dangers of using the product. Because in winter, they will like to burn that plastic and use it for energy, for heat. That means you should not burn, because it may contain certain material which may be toxic for them. So you should not allow them to do that. And you create the recycling value chain by starting with the informal sector. And what experience we had in the e-waste, we should replicate it here. Rachana was there in GIZ, where we worked together to formalize the informal sector, give them recognition, put the label to them, and you identify those waste collectors who can take it to a channel where it will be properly recycled. So there is a step here, because the plastic which comes as a soiled plastic has to be cleaned also. So the cleaning, because once you put the rack pickers, they will be only sorting the clean plastic. The soiled plastic will again be in the landfill. So without allowing the plastic to go to, I was very happy to hear that MRF focus is there for from the urban ministry. If they can really create MRF will be the den for collection of plastic. So all the plastic recycling units can reach to the MRF, put their place, and they can even do some bidding to collect the plastic, which will be, and MRF should also take the responsibility of cleaning. So you have to have if you want to recycle, you have to have a clean plastic. If you want to have plastic for recycling and reuse and all the 3 R's, if you want to have recover material or recover energy, then you have to have a channelization. That means you use the informal sector as a partnership for channelization. And I will tell one thing here, that Maruti model. In Maruti manufacturing, first thing they did was they collected all the parts, component manufacturers, the steering, the brakes, the brake lining, the doors, the sheathing, covering, the plastic, even the wiper. Every person was associated with the Maruti manufacturing, and they were contracts for selling. So this will work. So if you are able to have the plastic, so declaration of the plastic by the whatever is the chemical composition, this thickness, gauging, etc. will not work. But if you say this plastic is recyclable, people will understand. They will put it for recycling channel. Otherwise, even kabadiwalas, they go by the looks and appearance of it. Then the channelization through the informal sector. So let's make the informal sector a productive partner, and they will be able to collect maximum of the plastic. We have to incentivize, we have to educate them, we have to give them attire, that is safety devices, gloves, this thing, goggles, shoes, etc., so that they can harness plastic from wherever it is. And if MRFs are set up, then there will be no problem, because that particular indication was, in fact, I'll correspond with him to know what would be the stage where I can make some help intervention so that it is there. So once MRF is there, you will get maximum plastic from there. So your plastic from municipal solid waste is solved. The plastic from plastic is solved. If there is an EPR, regular plastic, which is going to be collected by it is not possible to apply the same EPR for electronic waste and plastic, because plastic, nobody will come and do a take back. So as far as the packaging plastic is concerned, we should ensure that companies which are involved in packaging, they should be able to make it a user-friendly packaging. It could be opened, and then you take out the product and then keep it back, and it could be even reused. A packaging can be reused. So there's a huge amount of potential for reusing. So the reusability of plastic, we have to explore and create a good value chain with a, when they say circular economy, one aspect of circular economy which we miss is the financial aspect. Who will be funding it? Who will bell the cat? As far as the collection is concerned, it's an orphaned activity. Government has to support collection system. Just like MRF, they have to support the collection system. And once the collection system is supported, then you can say, you can have a certain tax which should be charged to the EPR through EPR tax, which is actually put to the producer, saying that if you don't change your material, if your material is not recyclable, not reusable, then you have to pay the tax. Then it becomes a financially viable. So the last part is the economics. Fourth is the social thing, fifth one is the social thing, which I said, if you engage all your informal sector or the rat picking community as a formalized, identified with a ID, they all have Aadhaar card today. Everybody has an Aadhaar card. You just have to put that as an ID for them. Once you are able to enroll them, if they come for regular work, pay them something, incentivize them, or through education, through clothes, through place to stay, etc. So many ways of social. So unless we balance the social, economic, and the resource for then only we can have protection of the environment. Otherwise, plastic will be there, and plastic may create more menace if we don't take care of it at this time. This time is a good time, and I'm sure organizations like We Care, who really want to care for the environment, should bring a definitely different changes in the whole ecosystem of plastic and create a good sync between the informal, formal, government, researchers, because some inputs may be required when you want to verify whether the plastic is in. So all that, when converges, it will become a potential future activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. You very meticulously placed all the points where we all can work, and basically it's all about whenever whatever points that different speakers are making, they are from different side of the stakeholder. They are, their job or their organizations are working in different sectors, but overall, there is one common voice that is coming out, is that segregation at source is the key if we want to have sustainable plastic waste management systems on ground up and running, irrespective of whether EPR is there or not. It's the responsibility of every citizen to ensure that we segregate our waste. There are a lot of municipalities which are now, creating infrastructure to transport segregated waste. There are municipalities who are creating MRS in their jurisdiction. So there are a lot of actions which are happening. We have heard Mr. Yadav earlier. He was here. He has also set an example how societal engagement helps in making the solutions much more workable in adverse conditions, specifically in hilly areas where the transportation is at a very huge cost. So if that can be done, definitely, across the country, such model needs to be explored. Thank you, ma'am, for your intervention. I would now switch to Mr. Milind Chavan. He's the head of sustainability from Dow Chemicals. Mr. Chavan, I would like to, you have heard the panel. They have, mentioned all their activities, actions that they have taken. You comes from the, chemistry side of the plastics, and there are a lot of initiatives of Dow specifically on the part of how material science can imbibe sustainability into the overall value chain of the plastics. So we would like to request you for your intervention on those aspects, so that we can have further discussions. We have a lot of questions coming in from Q&A. We already have crossed 5 minutes past 5 o'clock. So I would request you to have your intervention, and then we would see if we can take some questions. I'm sure some of the questions would have already been answered by our panelists, but we would attempt to answer them. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Chauhan.
Thanks, Kamal, and hope I'm audible.
Yes, very clearly. Yeah.
Thanks, Kamal, and thanks, BK, for giving this opportunity. Can I share my slide?
Yes, you can.
Hope you can see my slides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for this opportunity, and I believe we already overrun by 5 minutes, and I will not touch upon the points which is already covered up. But being a last presenter, always it is seen that things have been covered, but it seems there's other way around. There's a lot of pressure on the last presenter in terms of material science. What are you doing? What are that you're bringing in terms of creating circularity and innovation, collaboration? And I believe we tried to understand this almost a few years back, and that's what our journey was for last 5 years. And we've been focusing to make sure that we touch upon all of these areas as a material science company and enable the post-consumer plastic waste to create an up-recycle, other than from only a material science company of selling materials for packaging and other applications. We now have been actively focusing globally, regionally, and country-wise in the area for the post-consumer plastic waste, for creating a value for it. And so we've been driving in terms of what are the technologies, what are the innovations that can be done in the areas of collection by our interventions, by our putting our resources, by encouraging the technologies. And at the same time, we being a material science company, we try to make sure that each of these plastic waste which is collected, which either could be hard to recycle or recyclable, should be processed in a manner to bring such value to the whole stakeholder. And it doesn't end up there. There has to be a demand for the products which is made out of the plastic waste. Unless and until there is a demand, we probably will end up with another problem. And so that's what we try to create with the collaboration that create a demand for these kind of products. So again, these are the 4 pillars which primarily we are focusing on. Is design for recyclability is our top agenda. We being a material science company has a bigger responsibility to create more and more recyclable packaging. We in fact have committed last year that by 2030, all of our materials, so all what polyethylene we sell into this application, we'll only sell to application where it is reusable or recyclable. So it's a bigger responsibility on us to make sure that industry has a solution which could be recyclable packaging. And there have been a lot of work has been done globally and also specific to India. And we are a firm believer, and Barun has also highlighted, there's a requirement for advanced recycling or a chemical recycling. So we feel that the mechanical recycling and chemical, or what we call as advanced recycling, will coexist, because there are a lot of limitations for mechanical recycling. And probably from a mechanical recycling, we would be able to use PCR for non-food, non-pharma application or secondary packaging. But when you need for a food application, advanced recycling would be the solution. And we already have work done already in the area, and I'll be sharing in next slide. And the last one also bucket, what we are trying is bio-based solution. So we truly say not biodegradable or compostable, but bio-based solution, but not made out of the trees or the product used from the farming. So we recently tied up with a company called UPM in the Europe. These are again the naphtha equivalent of oil provided from a tall oil, and we produce a circular polyethylene which can go back into this mainstream. And so that's a bio-based solution what we are considering. Mechanical recycling, as I highlighted, needs a strong infrastructure, and we all know there's a lot of variability in terms of post-consumer plastic waste. And we as a material science company has to put a lot of efforts to bring in a PCR in the market, be it secondary packaging or the primary packaging will be still much more stringent. And it needs definitely a much collaborative work with the stakeholders, right from the collection agencies to recyclers to also the brand owners to take it to the next level. It's definitely the low carbon option in terms of all of the PCR available options. And this is a model which I will Rachna touched upon that the Lucro, but so the Lucro is a company which is an Indian local recycler. We've been engaging with them for last 2 years. We evaluated their PCR, or I said the post-consumer waste in our capabilities in multiple pack studios. And then we finally had developed a PCR solution, which is now available for secondary packaging applications, which targeted for polishing string, stretch film. But the next work, which is in the progress, is for primary packaging. So it's a collaboration between the Lucro and Dow, but we again has a circular capital in between, because a recycler has got their own limitations, and circular capital has invested in this company to make sure that there is enough financial support to scale up, to enhance such PCR-based offerings from the Lucro. And they already have commercialized in Marico, and also ITC, and a few more are in the pipeline. So these are primarily now the secondary packaging with 25 to 50% of a PCR already into the packaging applications. Coming to advanced recycling, and as I said, for a food grade, this is the best as of now option available. When you look at from mechanical recycling, as I said, variability of input feed, then making it to the food grade application, it's a very expensive option, which there are food grade resins available in the Europe, but they probably are not an economical option, versus hopefully compared to the mechanical recycling for a food grade, the advanced recycling solution would work much better over the mechanical recycling. And on this kind of a thing where, as I said, advanced recycling, we have taken an initiative in 2019. We collaborated or partnered with Phoenix. Phoenix supplies us naphtha equivalent made from a post-consumer plastic waste. We then crack it and make a circular polyethylene, which can be used same as a normal polyethylene for a food grade category. Recently, last month, we announced another partnership. This is from UK, Emura Technologies. They're also again a pyrolysis player, where we committed that almost 1 million metric tons of a plastic waste would be used through this process by 2025 to make a circular polyethylene for the world. And likewise, we have been working in all across the geography, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and North America too. And again, so these are again the specific to India also. There have been a lot of work what we have done. Recycle ready technology is one of our key initiatives, and we've been driving to promote recyclable packaging and work with the brands. Tata Salt was the first who used recyclable packaging, and it's been almost 1 year. We've worked closely with all of the stakeholders to make this move as a commercial options available. Then there is an Adani, Cargill, and there are a few more brands. So that's the first stage what we work, and we try to see that maybe 80% of the existing packaging formats can be converted to the recyclable packaging. There's a lot of work in progress with multiple brands to even solve the problem for a complex structures to make it recyclable. But we realize that that may not be the only, if you address recyclable and still be able to address the problem. And then we said, no, the collection makes a bigger issue, and we heard in the many of the activities. So we did 2 projects, and we're continuing on those. And those projects are what we call Rethink Plus, is a project which we have taken with Recycle. So they were into the electronic waste, and we finally together first ever digital enabled take back and recycling program initiated in Pune, and has been very successful. It's primarily focuses on collecting the plastic waste at source, so you get a clean plastic waste and you get a high economic value. So that makes a sense to make the model as a self-sustaining model. And we were again probably amongst the very first few corporates to involved from I'll say material science perspective as well as from the value chain, that we worked closely with the Pune and Bangalore municipal corporations and enabled the construction of 50 kilometers of a road. But that's not the end of the only 50 kilometer, but now the partners have been built around 500 kilometers of road in the last 1.5 year over that. In this, again, more important is that alone thou or alone any single company may not be able to address and solve the problem, and that's what we realized. And so we started to work collaboratively, even with the competitions or with the customers or with the brand owners. And we are the again founding member of an alliance to end the plastic waste, who are committed almost $1.5 billion over a period of 5 years. But majority of the investment will be coming in Asia Pacific. Of that, there are 3 projects are already on ground in India, and 3 more projects are in pipeline. So they are funded. In fact, it's not an investment. They have funded these projects in India to make sure that the self-sustaining models are created. Among that, as I highlighted, Circulate Capital, we are again the funding investor, and Circulate Capital are invested in India almost $40 million in 6 different recycling companies and make sure that the plastic waste is channelized or up recycled in a better manner. So this is the last slide from me. Thank you so much. I know we have a limited time, so in case there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer even the post event or emails. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Milind. It's been good to note various aspects that Dow is working upon on material science, and good that, like Tata Consumers, who have been one of your partners in having recycle ready technology to be implemented. So we would now, request, so we can have a couple of questions from the chat box that is there. So I would like to ask a couple of questions taking you up. So we cannot answer every question. Some of them are already answered by our panelists. So there is one aspects related to energy recovery of under plastics. It's been debated that whether it's basically recycling or basically we are going for energy recovery. So what sort of interventions are required? Because in India we generally get the plastics, a soiled set of plastics. So in any of the panelists can answer to it, what it takes to get these plastics. Specifically, I'm talking about MLP, which has very limited options. So any insights that how we can increase the waste to energy thing so that we can have one set of stream available for disposal.
Yeah. Uh, can I answer?
Yes,
Malvi?
Mr. Jha. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, when we look at waste to energy, as I said earlier also that uh, in terms of, I'll just give you a comparative analysis. Like China has more than 150 plants, and China has been developing waste to energy very aggressively in the last almost 15 years. And now they are trying to have plant in every major cities. Similarly, US has around less than about 100 plants, 95 to be that's the amount numbers they have, and they just these two countries I'm taking. Compared to India, we have around 4 or 5. That's the plant we have which is running. We have one in Delhi which is running successfully. We have one in Jabalpur, one probably in South India which has just started. So we are just taking off in this area, the waste to energy. As far as energy recovery is concerned through waste to energy, it will be one of the best solution of India. But the problem is calorific value of the waste. Our calorific value as compared to the other countries like US, and where the longitudinal effect of the climate is very better in us, the calorific value is much lower. The content of waste in those countries are much better for a energy full waste to energy plant to come up. So I am suggesting a recovery solution where we are, where we can have a 360-degree approach where composting can simultaneously exist with waste to energy, as well as a smaller solution like bulk generator, plastic to diesel plant, plastic granule plant, or solutions which have been suggested by many of the panelists can be taken up. That is the idea where we can, because India is very in terms of the variance of the waste, it is very high, and we just can't have one modular solution for India like China has or say US has. We have to have all the solution existing, because also don't forget that the kabadi wala forms a very large part of our plastic value chain. The supply chain is very much managed by them, so day to day getting those plastic from them is also a big challenge for many of the private players. So everybody has to be integrated in this whole chain. That's what I suggest.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now taking these, Varun, you want to intervene? Yes.
Yeah, quickly, Kamal. I think the Sujay has touched the right point. I think the calorific value plays the role. I think the right RDF, because it is working like a RDF, and the material selection should be the right for the cement clean or energy. So whether we send to waste to energy, and pyrolysis is very much with the right material combination. So that has to have a very high quality calorific value. So with the innovation coming in field, I think the packaging innovation or the format selection, I think not just the format doesn't help. It should be collapsible. You should be able to basically bail it properly and then send it. So these are the multiple things. So just the packaging format will not help. It has to go through the entire value chain. So the packaging solution has to be towards that, so that it can be easily manageable. And then this material selection is very critical, and that's why the journey, if Milind also mentioned that the material combination plays a very important role. So MLP to non-MLP, I think non-MLP, I would say the monomaterial, which is a combination of BOPP, CPP, or LDP or HDP, will definitely improve the entire pyrolysis plant efficiency. And another area where there has to be a lot of work has to happen is the cleanliness of the oil. When you clean the oil and then use it, that and the taker of the oil is also important in this aspect. Today once the oil is created, that oil's getting it sold and multiple use is a big challenge. That Sujay can also talk about it, but there some support is required to really see who are the takers for these oils. Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's a very valid point, because one more minute I'll take, because oil is a big challenge. One is technically you have to reform the oil, and you have to take permission from the petroleum regulatory authorities. if you have to sell it to the market. Otherwise, you have to sell it to the unorganized sector. Again, that's again another challenge. It's a very big challenge, as the whole circular economy in a macro level I'm talking about. It's a big challenge because oil, you may produce the oil, but you can't sell it just in the open market unless you have right permissions, right. So that's what it is. Thank you.
So, okay, thank you. I think we got a good flavor of what are the risks and challenges for various technological solutions. However, if we look at the overall impact of plastics on the environment, it is on the material replaceability perspective, it is much better value proposition to environment than, as Professor Vasudevan mentioned, it is basically our behaviors and our the way we treat our waste is the key thing to ensure that we segregate at source, it transported in a segregated manner, and hence the some of the challenge associated with whether it's pyrolysis or in the cement kiln side, those things can be addressed. Milind, what's your take in terms of pyrolysis and as a technology, and how you guys have been testing, because your research is more in the western part, and is there anything which is done in India specifically?
So again, pyrolysis has been a challenge, as what pointed out, that it need to be refined. So it again depends on, one is an efficiency of conversion, because that depends on your stream of an input feed, and then what the quality you get, it would be very first LDO category, and to reach to the level of a naphtha is really a huge cost, and then you need to again do kind of an hydrolysis. So the way we've been looking at someone from India also, as well as in the Asia Pacific region for a pyrolysis. But considering those challenges, we still have only 2 options right now, which we have chosen. But we're still looking at more and more options in terms of getting a good oil from the pyrolysis stream.
Okay. Thank you. I think the rest of the questions, I think the panelists have less because of the paucity of time. We have already shooted half an hour beyond the budgeted time of 2 hours. It's been a great discussion, and we thank all the panelists for taking time for this session on this World Environment Day. We also thank all the attendees who have been very patiently listening, interacting through the chat box with our panelists, and we sincerely thankful to all the members of WeCare who have been actually helping us to drive a lot of initiatives in this regard, and this is just the start of the journey. And with this note, I would wish everyone a happy World Environment Day. Let's live simple, let's live sustainability, have sustainable choices, whether I want to go to a market or I want to buy certain products. It's on our day-to-day decision-making helps environment. Thank you so much. With this, we end our session.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Kamal. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.